Greetings everyone, Arya here, and welcome to Young Adult April 2024. And no, this is not an April Fool's Day prank, this is actually happening, so there you go. But anyway, so this month we're going to be taking a look at the Maze Runner books and movies. And unfortunately, this is going to be the last edition of Young Adult April 2024. I'm sorry, but after I'm done with this whole series, we're going to be starting a new series next year where we're going to be looking at the various seasons of the Japanese series Super Sentai, and as well as the adaptations, as well as the main adaptation, aka Power Rangers. So, like, next year you'll be getting me reviewing all the episodes of Zyuranger, and then after that, well, actually, I'll be looking at all the Super Sentais that got adapted into Power Rangers first, and then after that, I'll be looking at all the different Power Ranger iterations and stuff like that. So, there you go. So, yeah, just want to give you guys an update about all that stuff, so there you go. Anyway, so let's kick things off by looking at the first book in the Maze Runner series, which, of course, is The Maze Runner. So, here we go. Thomas wakes up in a metal elevator that brings him to the Glade. He has no memory of who he is or how he got there, except for his name. He gradually discovers that the Glade is run by two boys, Albie, the leader, and Newt, the second in charge, who maintain order by enforcing simple but effective rules. The elevator box surfaces from under the ground once every week and brings supplies of food, tools, clothes, medicine, and sometimes weapons. Every month, a new boy with no memory of anything but his first name also appears in the box. The glade is enclosed by a square of concrete walls 700 feet high. The walls have openings in them, which slide shut every night. Outside the walls is the maze. A labyrinth of high concrete walls covered in ivy that changes every night. The maze houses strange, lethal creatures known as grievers. All that is known about grievers is that they are a combination of metal and flesh. The gladers try to stay alive as well as solve the maze by appointing runners to run through as fast as they can while they track movements of the walls and try to find an exit to escape. One day after Thomas's arrival, a girl, Teresa, is delivered through the elevator into the glade. She's the first girl to arrive into the glade and has a note clutched in her hand that says, "She's the last one, ever." She says Thomas's name when she's in a week-long coma. Later that day, a boy named Ben, who was stung by a griever and went through the changing, tries to kill Thomas. Albie saves Thomas and Ben is banished that night. Minho, the keeper of the runners, goes into the maze with Albie to see what they think is the first dead griever. Albie is stung by the creature, which causes him to tag Minho, who knocks Albie out. Minho carries Albie back to the glade, but by the time they arrive, the doors to the glade are already closing. Thomas runs into the maze to help with no hesitation, but becomes stranded Minho and Albie. When they hear the sounds of grievers approaching, Minho runs away while Thomas uses the ivy to pull Albie up the wall. Thomas is supposed to survive and keep Albie alive, and by morning, Thomas and Minho have killed 4 of the grievers. After returning to the glade the next morning, Newt calls a gathering of the keepers to discuss what to do with Thomas. Some of the keepers vote to relieve him of punishment, but others, especially Golly, vote to lock him up as a punishment. Mina, however, nominates Thomas to become the keeper of the runners, to which Gally disagrees. Gally and Minho threaten each other, and the discussion ends with Gally storming off. Newt, as interim head of the gathering due to Albie going through the changing, proposes sending Thomas to the Slammer, their version of a prison, for a day, then having him start training to become a runner. Without an official vote, the keepers decide to go with Newt's plan. Albie asks to see Thomas alone, without Newt, and tries to tell him something he has seen during the changing that had to do with Thomas. Before he can give Thomas any real information, Albie starts trying to choke himself. With Newt's help, Thomas manages to stop him. Albie then says it wasn't really him, and that someone was controlling his actions. Teresa wakes from her coma and tells Thomas telepathically that she triggered the ending. The food is running low, the sky is permanently gray, the box is not coming up, and that same night the maze doors stay open. Albie decides that, to be useful, he'll go into the map room and analyze the maps to see if he can find any patterns. Gally comes back that night and says that the grievers will come every night now. killing them all off one by one. When the Grievers enter the homestead, where the Gladers had open hiding, Gally throws himself at them and they leave. The next morning they find that Albie, weighed down by the reality of the world outside the maze, had burned all the maps, effectively destroying any possibility of finding a clue. Thomas discovers that Minho and Newt actually secured the maps of the weapons room a couple hours earlier, saving the maps from Albie. Thomas gets the idea to compare each map to the maps of other sections as opposed to other days, and, after copying a couple maps onto wax paper and laying them day by day, they find that the first combination spells Float Cat. After a couple days of copying maps and layering them, they find the complete code spelled out by the maze as Float, Catch, Bleed, Death, Stiff, Push. During the following nights, the Grievers come back and, as Gally had said, they take one Glader a night. Realizing that they won't get anywhere without him getting his memories back, Thomas voluntarily gets stung by a Griever who spends a couple days unconscious as he goes through the changing to get his memories back. When he wakes up, he knows that they have to go down the Griever hole to escape the maze and insert the code into a machine they will find. He also remembers part of the world it came from, knowing a bit about Wicked, World of Catastrophe, Killzone Experiment Department, and his participation in the creation of the maze. Using this new information, most of the Gladers leave to try and jump down the Griever hole. Almost half of them die in the fight against the Grievers, but Thomas and Teresa manage to insert the code, with Lapham from Chuck to realize the push meant to push a button, and it was not the last word of the code. After exploring the facility they are now in, the remaining Gladers find themselves in a room with scientists watching them. One of them walks out, Gally walking with her. He throws a knife at Thomas, but Chuck dives in, saving Thomas's life, though he loses his own. A rescue team come crashing in a couple seconds later, killing all the scientists that are watching the Gladers, and taking them with them to another facility where they have dinner and go to sleep, sure that they are safe now. The epilogue is written in the voice of Chancellor Ava Page, a feature of all the trilogy's novels. She reveals that the group that rescued the Gladers is just another variable in the experiment and that the Gladers are not the only group being evaluated. She reveals that the next day, the second phase of the trials will begin. This leads directly into the events of the next book. Dun dun dun. So let's take a look at the development of this novel. In late 2005, mid-June, Dashner had published 4 books to complete the Jimmy Fincher saga, which had been with a small regional publisher. His publisher wanted him to write another book, but decided he would try for a national book market instead. In November that year, he had an idea for a book, quote, about a bunch of teenagers living inside an unsolvable maze full of hideous creatures in the future in a dark dystopian world. It would be an experiment to study their minds. Terrible things would be done to them, awful things, completely hopeless, until the victims turn everything on its head, end quote. The book was later published in 2008. Dashner wrote the book from December 2005 to March 2006. Interesting. So overall, as the first Maze Runner book, it really gets things going, and yeah, it definitely sets up a lot of things that they're gonna be solved in the next book and stuff like that. So hopefully, but yeah. So overall, I give the first Maze Runner book. I'll give it 3 Grievers out of 5. Well, anyway, tomorrow we take a look at the next book, The Scorch Trials. So, yeah, see you all tomorrow then.